what was a three-story apartment complex.
This parking lot is now just a one-story pile of rubble.
For a city, what once stood fell.
The people that died.
For the survivors, what once was.
Their problems are gone. They'll never have to feel anything again.
Is no longer.
We're going for a little bit of an aftershock.
Now, Los Angeles.
Hello, I'm Karen Stone, and welcome to the History Channel. It was quiet and well before dawn on Monday morning, January 17th, 1994. Sunrise still a few hours away. The freeways encircling Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley clear. And the sleeping city was expected to move a little slower than usual once everyone was up and out. For many, that Monday would cap a welcome three-day weekend because of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Then, at 4:31 a.m., it struck. Everyone felt the convulsion of the earth and knew right away this one was big. Buildings collapsed and houses were split in two. Elevated highways buckled. Isolated sections tumbled to the ground, leaving the rest of the road resembling an Arizona butte. With the power out and the darkness, motorists couldn't see where the road ended and where the slide to possible death began. For the overnight news managers and crews, it was a red alert. Off-duty reporters and technicians knew they'd be expected to report for work immediately and by any means. Now, non-stop coverage was necessary. Over the next 2 hours, we will replay those early, hesitant news reports and many of the updates in the hours and days that followed. The CBS News coverage, edited for time, begins almost 30 minutes after the quake struck. It was 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 8 a.m. in the East. Join us now as the History Channel presents the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 as it happened.
This is a CBS News special report.
Harry Smith and I are breaking into regular programming to let you know that an earthquake has struck Los Angeles this morning at 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. There is no word yet on how strong this quake is, but we are told by a number of folks who went through this one that the first tremor lasted just about a minute, which is longer than most quakes are that are experienced out there, followed by two very strong aftershocks within 5 minutes of the initial jolt. There are reports of power outages throughout the city and a number of fires in the city. We can't give you an exact location of where those fires are and what the reason for them is. We assume that it could be natural gas lines that ruptured, but we will confirm that as the morning goes on.
And we have reports also that the quake was felt not only in Los Angeles, but apparently as far away as Las Vegas. Marcy Spencer, CBS News producer, is on the phone with us right now from Los Angeles. Marcy, what can you tell us about what's going on there now and what you felt? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, it woke me up. I guess it was about 4:30, 4:35. The bed began to shake. There was a lot of rumbling. It actually frightened me, but I was smart enough to get up and stand in the door jamb because I didn't know if anything was going to fall on top of me. But it was strong enough where the lamps on the tables actually fell to the floor. A lot of things that I had in my bathroom fell on the floor. The power went out. It was kind of scary.
What part of Los Angeles are you in?
I'm in Beverly Hills.
You are in Beverly Hills, and do you have power in your building?
Right now I do have power. I think we're on emergency lighting right now.
And what is the local media saying, or what can you hear or see from where you are?
I can't see anything from where I am, but I am listening to reports, and I hear that there are some sporadic fires in the area. I'm not sure what the situation is, though.
And what is there panic in your building, or are people in the hallways, or wondering if maybe they should get out of this building?
I hear some rumblings, and I heard a few screams this morning. It was pretty strong, I have to say.
Okay, we're going to let you get off the phone for a couple of seconds here, Marcy, find out what else you can find out and keep us posted. We'll get back to you in a little bit. We want to tune in right now to KCBS television, which is our CBS-owned and operated station out there, and it looks like they are broadcasting from the CBS-owned and operated radio station KNX. Let's listen in.
As Tricia just said, make sure if you can get to the gas lines, if you're smelling any kind of gas, it's probably safe just to turn the gas off anyway. But turn the gas off, and hopefully you've got shoes on because of broken glass and debris around the house. You don't want to be stepping on that. As information continues to come in, we'll continue to pass it on to you. The most important thing, your safety. So if you feel like you have to be somewhere right now, you don't. Stay home, take care of your families, and make sure that everyone is in a safe place away from the windows that can still break even with these aftershocks. 6.5 or even better is what they're telling us now, centered in the San Fernando Valley. And I'm also hearing that there were some problems with our new Century 105 freeway. At least they're assessing that right now. The highways have, the roadways at least, are buckling in a lot of areas. On surface streets, the light signals are out, so there's just havoc out there on the highways. Unfortunately, people are panicking, and you know, you just got to stay calm and take care of each other. Trisha's back in here right now. We don't have a whole lot of room, I know, to come on over here and talk to you. I don't know. I have no idea if we're even still on the air.
Still on the air?
Hard to tell.
Okay.
KCBS Newsroom along with Michael Tuck, and we are looking at videotape that was shot shortly after the earthquake hit at 4:31 this morning, and there have been several aftershocks. We're going to join Joe Avila right now, a reporter in Caltech. Joe, you went over to Caltech immediately after the earthquake, and you said that you didn't see any problems on your way over there. And what did you find once you got there?
Well, no, we didn't see any problems on the way over here. Let me just update the information. They're calling it a 6.6 earthquake that happened under a shallow thrust fault under the San Fernando Valley. And we're in the middle of a press conference right now, so let's do that. Let's move over. Let's pick up what Dr. Kate Hutton is saying and hear what and pick it up from there.
The question is about whether this, how close this was to the San Andreas Fault, and it's about 20 miles south of the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault in this area goes through Palmdale and Elizabeth Lake and Gorman. So this is not close to the San Andreas Fault.
20 miles south.
Yeah.
Still no exact fault, right, Dr. Lynn?
Well, we know it's a shallow thrust under the San Fernando Valley. We don't know whether that breaks the surface at one of the known faults or not.
Wasn't 71 a surface?
1971 showed surface rupture along the northern edge of San Fernando Valley in the where the mountains meet the valley.
Those of you who don't remember, the 1971 quake was a 6.5 magnitude quake under the town of San Fernando, caused the 210 freeway to collapse onto the 5. This earthquake at 4:31 this morning was magnitude 6.6 under the San Fernando Valley.
Dave Barker.
Yes, Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't even know if I'm going to adequately describe what we're seeing in front of us here. You're seeing a total freeway collapse here. And tragically enough, this is the Interstate 10 now. This is the Santa Monica Freeway here. And we're right on the freeway now. This is the, which bridge is this? This is the Washington and Fairfax Bridge. And as you can see, it is totally collapsed here. I'm not sure exactly the extent of the damage here, but as you can see, just a total collapse of the 10 here.
Dave, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Are there any cars involved?
Yeah,
in that car?
I'm going to show you one right here. Car apparently hit this head on. You can see the damage. The driver is no longer in the car. We do see a lot of remnants of sorry to say, a lot of blood inside this car. We don't know what happened to the person here who obviously was hit this freeway when it came up.
Can I interrupt you for a second here? We're getting live shots of a huge fire. Obviously in the foreground of your picture there, you see a water main that is also broken and perhaps a gas fire in the back. Linda Moore, are you there?
And so you were driving out trying to get away,
right.
And what happened? The street just opened up?
The cracks started appearing, and then gas started flaming up, and there in the beginning it was just like fumes, and then it just exploded.
And do you know if anybody's been hurt?
I don't know. We just bailed out. As far as I know, there's people stuck on the other side.
Yeah, the problem here is that we can't get any farther north, and the emergency crews are having problems getting up north on Balboa too, because the water is just flowing down here. As you can see, just a huge raging river right now, and you can see a lot of the residents are standing in front of their properties here just looking out. Well, also what we can't send over the air is the fact that the smell here is just tremendous. There's just a horrible smell of gas right now, and we're all a little bit concerned because there's a gas station right here within just a few yards of where we're standing. Yeah, it appears that the
You are
building
listening to live coverage from KCBS TV, our local affiliate out in Los Angeles, of the earthquake that hit Los Angeles close to 2 hours ago. There are reports of similar situations in other parts of the city where fire hydrants have been ripped from the ground with water spewing 100 feet into the air. There are reports of 5 significant fires in the San Fernando area close to the epicenter. We cannot confirm that is the epicenter, but Caltech is reporting that is what is believed to be the epicenter, which sits about 50 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. Mayor Reardon has declared a state of emergency in the city, which will allow all police officers and fire department folks to stay on full alert throughout the day. I was saying to Harry a couple of minutes ago, what is also interesting is the ripple effect this is having to the north. Officials in Portland, Oregon, and Seattle are now reporting power outages as a result of the quake in the San Fernando Valley. Utility officials in Seattle are now saying some 30,000 people are without power, and that happened just about 30 minutes after the quake. In Portland, about 10,000 people are without power at the moment.
We're going to go back to this live KCBS coverage, and these pictures are just phenomenal from LA this morning.
To the north of the first epicenter. So that seems to suggest the actual rupture area is from the epicenter and then up towards the north end and maybe underneath some of the mountains north of San Fernando Valley.
Dr. Morey, what's the possibility or likelihood this is a foreshock for something much bigger?
At this point, there's no indication that there's going to be a lot of much larger earthquakes. Certainly, there's going to be many aftershocks, and we're getting hundreds now, and people should certainly be ready for magnitude 5, maybe even something a little bit larger in the next few days to weeks.
Do you have a fault yet, Dr. Morey?
We don't have a named fault yet, no.
Can you tell us where the epicenter was? I mean, can you specify a location at all?
I can give you a location in terms of latitude and longitude, which is basically about 2 or 3 miles from the northern edge of the San Fernando Valley. So I think that puts it close to the town of San Fernando.
So near the town of San Fernando, I've also heard the town of Sylmar, that area.
We've heard Northridge also.
Northridge.
Right, it's probably a little bit south of that. You know, in 1971 there was a large earthquake, 6.5 in Sylmar, San Fernando. This particular event is a few miles south of that earthquake.
This is a chopper picture from KTLA, Los Angeles television station KTLA. That's pictures you are looking at, live pictures of fires in the Los Angeles area. This earthquake struck 2 hours and just about 15 minutes ago, especially out in the valley. There were reports of widespread fires. You can see from that I'm sure must be having problems with water pressure. In some areas, those fires just must be spreading and out of control.
And in some areas, we were told there's no water at all because a number of the fire hydrants have been knocked from their foundations, and a lot of water has been lost that way. You know, we saw that one shot in Northridge of just torrents of water pouring down.
Industrial area there. Mobile home park, is that what it is? It's kind of difficult to see, but these are live aerial pictures now coming in from LA. Look at this. My goodness. Let's listen in.
Or 6 ground units. This will burn to the ground. Now, I'm going to be making a slow right-hand pan, and I want you to take a look at some of the hills. Now, this is the hills between Santa Monica, West Los Angeles, and Ventura Boulevard. There you can see a home burning. The problem with this particular home was that the gas lines ruptured, sending gas through the structure. A couple of fire department units on scene. Now, I'm going to show you a home that collapsed over here that I don't think people know about yet. There's so much damage, and these are, you know, we're getting some light now, and we're able to see some of the full effects. Here we have a home damage. Can you see it, Michael?
It's quite graphic. We see the whole thing.
Okay, now, this is where in the Sherman Oaks hillside, or where is this?
This is just above Ventura. We have people that may be trapped inside this house. Now, the fire department is stretched beyond limits. We need volunteers out to some of these locations to start digging through rubble. A lot of these areas are unsafe, as you can imagine, but this is the time to get in there and help. Also, maybe a couple of people trapped over in the area of Pacific Coast Highway, some vehicles. There you can see the garage collapsed, an entire home. When this hit, you know, there could very well be some people inside.
Bob, that would be my guess that there are. We see people down there on the left side. These cars with there. I can't after tragically being rescued up. People probably need in there.
You're going to take right on the left, yes.
We continue our look back at the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 here on the History Channel.
This is a live picture that you're looking at right now. This is from Los Angeles television station KTLA, and this is a brand new picture for us. Paula, you're a little more familiar with this part of Los Angeles than I am, but you can see there where this was a viaduct. This was once upon a time up in the air. That was the support strut that kept that part of the highway. The highway just literally dropped around it, and as best we can see there, what, maybe 2, 3 vehicles. There you can see the other part of the highway to the left of your screen that's dropped down a good 20 or 30 feet. As this situation, as we have seen several pictures similar to this throughout the morning, we are talking about a nightmare in terms of repair and damage and cost. There's another car there at the bottom of the screen that you can see that's damaged, that was partially destroyed as that highway just literally collapsed under that support structure during the earthquake. That now happened some 2 hours and 40 minutes ago. For those of you who may just be waking up on the Rocky Mountain time zones this morning, big earthquake this morning out in Los Angeles happened at 4:31 local time out in LA, and we are just now, as daylight has started to come about, get a real view of the damage that has occurred.
And Harry, we talked about this earlier this morning. What a blessing this is that this quake did not happen during the rush hour. I think that's one of the greatest fears that any of us had who lived out there in the area. We continue to look at these dramatic pictures that KCBS is delivering to us right now from Los Angeles. This is in the San Fernando Valley, which you can see is just west of Los Angeles and a little bit north. This is where it seems to be we're finding most of the fires caused by ruptured gas lines, which is giving firefighters a tremendous headache. They can't even get into these.
Let me run by that. Again, all regional airports out there, Burbank, Orange, Long Beach, open, and we still don't have confirmation on whether or not LAX has reopened yet or not, as they are examining the runways out there. Can we listen in? Do we have audio now from KCBS? Because they've got an incredible view of the mess out there. Let's listen.
Jackson right now, who has some information for us. Paul?
Well, we're here in Studio City. We've observed lots of damage throughout Studio City, but we are by far at the worst damage. 3 homes literally collapsed on a hillside. The folks all got out with their lives. Now, what you are looking at are 3 homes that were completely wiped off their foundations and swept down the hillside. One of the homeowners is joining us now. His name is Ron Douglas. Ron, tell us what happened this morning.
Well, I woke up and there was this shaking vibration, and the next thing I knew, the house was on top of me. I had no idea where I was, and then it took me about 10 minutes to climb up. So that's about it. I can't believe I walked away from this.
When we look down, we see the destruction, total destruction of your home. We're looking at a miracle here that you folks got out alive.
Yes, and the other 2 neighbors too. I think it's a real miracle.
Describe the earthquake. Describe having literally the walls collapse in on you.
Well, it was at night, so I guess everybody was asleep. I think it was about 4:30 or 5:30, and I saw the ceilings moving, and the next thing I knew, there was a tree branch right next to my arm. So it took me about 10 or 15 minutes to climb out, and I think a mattress was on top of my head. That's how I got saved. So that's about the extent of it. I don't remember too much after that. Just thank God I'm alive.
Wilbur? Through no fault of their own, we must say fire response time's been a bit slow. We are seeing severe damage throughout the Studio City area, but nothing of this magnitude. Simply a few bricks thrown down here, newspaper stands down. But this, we are told by law enforcement officials and fire department officials, is the most severe damage in all of North Hollywood and Studio City. 3 homes literally wiped off of their foundation, swept down the hillside. By the way, the homes beyond just below this were saved by the large tree, which kept the home from falling on top of it.
Well, everybody's accounted for, though.
Yes, they are. 2 dogs, unfortunately, 2 family pets have perished in this mishap.
Okay.
This is Chopper 2. We're looking at a live shot down there. I believe this is the area of, yes, that's Rinaldi, where we had
That's right. It's Rinaldi in the vicinity of just above the 118 freeway. What we had was a gas main explosion, and it literally blew up. And when it did, it took the life of at least 1, maybe 2 people, and also blew apart 5 homes. We're expecting the worst at this location. We also understand at Plummer and Rinaldi, another fatality incident there. I don't know if it's an accident. We're getting a little there we go. Getting a little back off on this microphone here. Anyway, there you can see the explosion. A gas line ruptured, and when it did, there was, this is where the epicenter was, just about in this vicinity. When it did, it took out the gas main. Gas built up underneath the street, eventually blew, exploded, and took at least 5 homes. And people are not getting any assistance from the fire department, and the reason is the fire department is stretched beyond their limits. Off-duty firefighters everywhere are now pouring into their station. But here's a big water main break, and this water main that you're watching right now, this services the Van Nuys and San Fernando Valley, and as you can see, you're going to have water interruption. Now, let me pan over here. This reservoir right here is so far...
Right now, we're going to the 118, which, as you can see, has collapsed. Standing by there, Linda Moore. Linda, tell us about it.
Well, this is actually the Mission Hills area, and this is the stretch of the 118 that has collapsed. We've got about approximately a 2-mile stretch of freeway here that looks very much like this. And maybe we can walk a little bit toward the end here, and you can see there is 1 car that was caught in this. And I was told there were 1 or 2 people inside that car. They have been taken to a hospital, and we don't know the extent of their injuries. And this is not just the only section that has collapsed like this. The CHP tells me that there are multiple sections that have a collapse just as severe, and Pancake just as severe as this, all the way from here, the 405 again, pretty much down to Reseda Boulevard. Once again, below me here is a street called Gothic in Mission Hills, and from what I've been told, we have 1 or 2 severe injuries or possible fatalities. And that is the story here in Mission Hills, and I'm Linda Moore.
Linda Moore standing in Mission Hills on the 118 in Gothic. Now we're going to go to Rory Marcus, where he was, where there was a major collapse. The 14 and the 5. Rory, you have new information for us.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am right at the intersection of the 14 and the 5, which is obviously in rubble. There is 1 fatality here. There were several injuries here, and I have a couple of witnesses with me who were here at the scene when the fatality occurred. The 14 freeway completely collapsed. You're looking at it right now, I believe, if Bob is getting you that shot. And the man who died drove off the 14 onto the 5. And exactly what did you see? I'm talking now to John Golzo.
I saw the police officer. We heard his tires screeching when we were assisting a pregnant woman on the interchange. And everybody turned around and saw the light come off the freeway, and we knew what had happened right away, that it had been a motorcycle. We didn't know at the time it was a police officer, though. And it looked like he did a couple of revolutions in the air before he landed on the collapsed spandrel.
And did you run to him?
Yes, everybody in the area did.
And what was his condition at that time?
Critical at that time. Hemorrhaging from the face area around the nostrils and eyes. Deep lacerations on the head. There was an officer on scene at the time, and he started to perform whatever he felt was necessary for life support at that time.
That is the ironic thing about this particular accident, the fact that the earthquake itself didn't kill anyone. They have taken all of the injured people away to the hospitals. The only fatality here was an officer who was trying to lend help and just did not see in time that the 14 freeway had collapsed and there was nothing there. He literally drove right off the 14 and collapsed onto the 5.
We're going to take a short break right now to let our local stations identify themselves. We'll be back.
When we return, we'll look at Ground Zero, the epicenter of the earthquake. It was near Northridge in the San Fernando Valley, where survivors of a collapsed apartment building searched for their downstairs neighbors. Our presentation of the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 will continue on the History Channel. Los Angeles, January 17, 1994. It's our 8 a.m. low time, although that was any fear on the beginning. Downstairs, with gas by several days, and no power. We have roads inaccessible. Some became traps. Water in rupture. Well, holes, no, twice the front first.
Bring Dave to damage. We're going to look on KCBS TV, our local affiliates' coverage of the earthquake. We're beginning really to get our view of how extensive the damage really is.
What are you looking at now?
Well, this is the area of Pacific Coast Highway at Chautauqua. This home has had a terrible past of portions of its backyard giving way because of all the rain. But here it was finally an earthquake that did this home in. The rear portion, the bedroom portion, collapsing down on Pacific Coast Highway, and it was inhabited at the time of the earthquake. We're looking at Pacific Coast Highway, and at least one home, the rear portion, the bedroom portion, having collapsed down on Pacific Coast Highway. Also, as you can see, Pacific Coast Highway also had other slides between Chautauqua and Temescal. That's where some of the more major damage occurred. This house, once again, has been losing its backyard because of the heavy rains for years, but this earthquake has taken away the bedroom portion.
We're going to go back out to the west side. We'll go over the Hollywood Hills and back out to Santa Monica area where Dave Barker is near right where the freeway collapsed, the Santa Monica Freeway. Dave.
Yeah, this is just a major tragedy for the city of Los Angeles when it comes to traffic. This is the major freeway in the city, one of the busiest in the country. There are two sections of the Santa Monica Freeway here that have come down. We're right over Venice Boulevard right now, and there is also La Cienega, which comes under this section of the Santa Monica Freeway, which, as you can see, has totally come to the ground. Now, this is just a little bit farther west of an area we showed you this morning, the Fairfax and Washington Bridge. That bridge also came down this morning. Many victims were driving in the area when the earthquake hit this morning, and we're not sure of the extent of their injuries at this point, but I just went up on top, and there was a car that is almost literally crushed up there. We're not sure what happened to that driver. But again, had this been just a couple hours later, this would have been an incredible disaster for the drivers, again, on one of the busiest freeways in America.
It's certainly...
You've been looking at continuous coverage at KCBS television of the earthquake in Los Angeles this morning. Let's see if you can see this map. I'll show you exactly where the reporter was standing. Can we get a little even closer to that? Here's Los Angeles International Airport. People who have been out there before. This is the Santa Monica Freeway. This is the busiest, one of the busiest freeways in the city. This thing is down onto the ground now in a place where it's normally elevated. The other big place where there are problems are up here on the 5. And that was another area where the freeway was completely collapsed. Dr. Chris Scholz is with us from Columbia University. He's a seismologist. And you say this is a place where the one up there on the 5 is a place where it collapsed before?
That collapsed in 1971 during the San Fernando earthquake. That intersection was under construction then, and it collapsed. And now they rebuilt it afterwards, and it collapsed in the same place.
Burbank is open. Van Nuys is open. Linda Moore, are you there?
I want to go back to KCBS's continuing coverage of the earthquake in Los Angeles, now some 4 hours and 10 minutes old.
The area now for the last several hours. This has to be the worst damage that I have seen anywhere. What you're looking at here is what was a 3-story apartment complex. A 3-story. It is now a 2-story complex. And what's going on now is that the fire department and the search and rescue crews are combing this entire complex here, digging through the floors of the 2nd level, which has now become the 1st level, which has collapsed on the bottom level, and trying to find bodies, trying to find live or dead bodies. They are now digging holes through the floor, trying to speak out, trying to get people to talk back to them. I just talked to a woman a minute ago, and she just heard that her husband is alive. There are hundreds of people standing outside in front of this complex. It was a rather large complex. What you're seeing is the front unit here. But there are 4 units just like this that go from here, the street, which is Reseda, all the way to the back. And there are at least 4 more units just like this, and unbelievably, every single one of these units has collapsed. Every single one of these units that was a 3-story is now a 2-story.
Linda?
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk to some of these people?
Yeah, This is Diana here. Diana, is this the house that you lived in, your apartment?
Yeah.
Right there? And are these all the things now?
All my stuff is out here and I can't find my wallet.
Okay, all right. Can you describe for us what happened during the quake and how did you get out?
We got out through the balcony right here, and I didn't realize we were on the floor because we live on the second floor, and I didn't.
You didn't even know it had collapsed?
Well, I felt it, a big thing, but I thought it was just a big jolt, and then I didn't realize, because I thought that the building would be able to withstand all that stuff, and I don't know. I looked up. My friend looked out the window, and she saw that we were on the floor, and so we got out.
So this is all your stuff now that they've brought out. Were you injured at all? You seem okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you know the people who lived underneath you?
No. We didn't live there was nobody underneath us because the entranceway is right here.
Right there. So directly underneath you, there was nobody there?
Nobody there. But then, see, the building moved to the right a little bit, like 6 or 7 feet, and maybe underneath here, maybe there was somebody here because this is the entranceway right here. And there was nothing underneath us.
Do you have any idea how many units were in this complex?
A lot. I don't know.
It looks large, yeah.
It's very big.
Yeah. Now, it also seems that there was a parking structure underneath part of it.
Yeah, over there was a whole bunch of cars were smushed and split open, and just everything just fell.
Was there panic when the earthquake hit? Were people screaming, crying, running, or what was the mood?
Actually, when we got out here, there wasn't many people out here. There was a lady out here. She was hurt, and her back, her furniture, something fell on her face, but there was a guy next door. I think he was on the first floor, but we heard him screaming for help, and he was underneath. Nobody would talk to him and listen to him, and we couldn't get out. We were under the desk.
All right. That's Diana, right? Yeah. All right, that's Diana. She's one of the residents here, one of the victims here. This is her apartment. Her stuff is all over here, and giving us a little idea of what happened. You know, it's interesting. She'd point out that underneath here was part of it was a parking structure, because that is consistently a problem in big earthquakes like that.
Thus far, 5 is the number of confirmed deaths, but the death toll is beginning to rise as we are getting a report now from the Associated Press that the fire chief in Northridge, California, which is very close to the epicenter of this quake, confirms that 5 people died in the collapse of an apartment building there. That's 5 people dead in Northridge, California, died in the collapse of an apartment building there. And from what we have been able to determine thus far, those are unrelated to the other deaths that have been reported. A number of people have suffered heart attacks as a result of the shock and the strain and the horror of what they experienced earlier this morning. This earthquake, when it hit at 4:31 Pacific time, was longer in duration than folks in Los Angeles are accustomed to. Those folks that we have talked to on the scene there say they felt like it was rumbling anywhere from 30 seconds to 45 seconds to as long as a minute. We've got a live picture now from KCBS, our owned and operated station out in L.A. You can see a fire rescue team, looks to be on the roof of a building there. It looks like it could have been a parking garage. We, of course, don't know the story on the ground there. We're just looking at a live shot from a helicopter. That's Northridge again. That, of course, is right close to the place where we know to be the epicenter of this quake. We're going to take a break right now and let our CBS stations along the line to identify themselves.
As they recovered from the initial physical and emotional shock, the people of Los Angeles mobilized to help wherever they could. Volunteers fought fires and climbed debris to help rescue the trapped and the injured. When we return, we'll see 2 dramatic rescues. A pregnant woman is extracted from her collapsed home, and a burn victim takes the most critical ride of his life. In a moment, the History Channel returns to the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 as it happened. The History Channel returns to As It Happened, the 1994 Los Angeles earthquake.
All right, we want to go back live to this KCBS television picture in Reseda.
Excuse me, are you a resident? My daughter is. Hi, can I talk to you a second?
Uh-huh.
What's your name?
My name is Carlene Rowe.
Where where did you live? What
I live
level?
on the first floor.
You lived on the first floor. So what happened? How did you get out? Did it collapse on top of you?
Well, I know that things were falling. I think the ceiling was falling down, and so all we could do, me and my roommates, was go through our bedroom window because our screen glass door was it was locked and it was stuck.
Were you crawling out while it was still shaking?
Yeah, we were just. I ran out the room and went to a doorway, and my roommate was right behind me. So
then did you see?
And the wall from from the
Linda,
you know,
walls.
Yeah.
Did you know that the top floors were falling on top?
No, I didn't know. I had no idea that it was.
What do you think? Do you think that the way it might have fallen? Do you think there could be people alive?
I don't know.
All right, you're listening to Linda Moore talk to a resident of a major disaster.
We lost our picture. There it is back. It appeared the rescuers were just
we don't want to get in the way of
we
their
heard some
operation.
applause, apparently from people standing around. Okay, let's see if we can get a better look at this. One of the victims just pulled out. Again, they've been trying to establish voice contact to find out who's still alive down there, who needs immediate help. And they've been working with chainsaws to cut through that rubble. They have pulled this person out, put them on a stretcher now, and are trying to get them to some medical help as quickly as possible.
It appears that they're still working on that person, so there is hope that they are going to be able to get some medical help to save that person. We hope.
I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. It appeared perhaps that it was a woman.
Well, people are applauding now, and
that's a good sign.
I think that's a good sign. There was always an indication that this person that they've been working on for the last half hour was alive because, as I say, it seemed like that there was some kind of communication going on. And again, that is how they're prioritizing this rescue effort right now. Is they're working on the people that they know
His eyes
are
are
alive.
open.
He's moving his hands.
Yeah, that's very, very good signs.
A terrifying ordeal. Apparently, they were able to contact him verbally and let him know that they were working toward him. It didn't look as if he was too far away from the edge of the building.
No.
But it's hard to tell.
But what a job these rescuers are doing.
Well, I think he was one of the lucky ones because when the third and second level came down, the whole complex, the bottom level, shifted over maybe 6 or 7 feet. And so where he seemed to be buried, and also someone else that they pulled a little earlier, shifted over 8 feet. He was one of the best positions.
Well, they have a moment to someone being rescued from a terrible condition of the collapsing.
A miracle there was anybody alive on that ground floor. Imagine being in a building with 2 floors above you, collapsing on your floor. People were caught in little pockets or maybe under beds or somehow cubby holes when walls were twisted. And they were saved. We have been watching some of the rescues in progress at that apartment house collapse in Reseda. And here you see a bird's eye view from Chopper 2. Up there is Bob Turr. Bob, can you give us any new information on that?
Oh, Michael, you know, we've been watching this all morning, but from the air you can see the full perspective of just what happened. This is almost like ground zero. Zooming on in, you can see an apartment house literally moved off its foundations about 5 feet into another apartment house. Then look down over here, you can see how the foundation buckled, then panning over to the right. There you can see some of the main portions of this apartment house actually collapsing. Now, the fire department personnel on the scene is tremendous. A number of units here. This is a major emergency problem. And as we swing around, I'll show you the parking structure. But literally, this apartment house, the foundation literally shook these apartment buildings off their foundation. The earthquake shook them off, moved them 5 to 6 feet. And now look down at this parking structure. There you can see a car that is toppled over on top of another car. That's the upper floor of a parking structure collapsing down on the subterranean level. And there you can see the whole apartment house off its foundation. As you can imagine, this complete apartment house is a complete loss at this point. This is on the 9500 block of Reseda, and their fire department urban search and rescue teams are moving through the apartment house, going by an apartment search, looking for additional victims.
We have no idea. No, it would be foolhardy to even speculate about a damage estimate in terms of dollars and cents at this point. It's going to be staggering.
You know, just even in the Sylmar quake, we were talking about that earlier. Let's see if I can find my notes on that. I mean, the damage was in the multi-millions, and that was in 1971.
Yeah. Speaking of Sylmar, I think that's where Saida Pagan is right now. Saida, is that where you are?
Yes, I am. I'm at the Oak Ridge Mobile Home Park, and as you can see see behind me, the fire is still burning after 35 or 40 homes went up in flames right after the earthquake. We understand that a gas main erupted. Neighbors around here were all trying to help each other hose down the houses, but as you can see, the flames move much too quickly. With us right now is Captain Robinson of the LA County Fire Department. Tell us what happened when you arrived on scene.
Well, our primary function was just keeping the parts of the mobile home park that were not involved in fire from catching on. The ones that were burning we couldn't save, so it was just a matter of keeping it from spreading any farther.
Now, we understand that there are several fires around here. At least this is one of maybe 5 others that are around this mobile home park.
That could be true. I only know basically what we were working here with 11 mobile homes that were burned here. And we just were confining it to those and keeping it from spreading.
And as you can see, it's still smoldering, and firefighters are there in the background hosing down these hot spots.
That's correct. Just a matter of keeping the hot spots from flaring up and making sure we don't have any of the gas mains and the leaking gas meters from flaring up on us and endangering other structures.
Okay, at this point, most of the people have been evacuated. We understand that there have been no fatalities and no injuries reported at this time. So that's the story from this mobile home park in Sylmar. Back to you.
We want to go up to Bob Chopper 2, Bob Turr, up above a dam there. Bob, what's happening there?
Well, Michael, what we're looking at is Pacoima Dam above Pacoima, which is in northern Los Angeles, northern LA City. And as you can see, all this dust that's climbing out of the canyon here, this is caused by aftershocks and earth slides. The hillsides here are collapsing down on the rear portion, the downrange portion of Pacoima Dam. So far, the dam looks pretty good. I've zoomed in. I've taken a look at the to see if we can see any cracks from Chopper 2 in the dam. So far, it looks pretty good. It's been built into the bedrock of the mountain range. However, portions are collapsing on the hillside, downrange, starting to collapse. But so far, the dam is doing a great job, and we don't see any cracks building up. However, if you are in the San Fernando Valley, you will see this. It's quite dramatic. A lot of dust rising, and this is caused by the initial earthquake that we had a little after 4 and all the aftershocks. Every time we have an aftershock, another portion of this ridge collapses down in this area. So that's what you're seeing with this dust. And the good news is that the Pacoima Dam is structurally sound so far.
I understand our Mary Parks is in the hospital right now. I don't know exactly where you are, Mary.
Community Hospital in Granada Hills, is that right, Mary?
Right, that's where I'm at. And right now we've got to, we want to show you some pictures of some of the injured that have been coming in here all day. But we have a very traumatic situation here. We've got to get some information out over the air. And this is Richard Gold. He is the president CEO of the hospital. I understand we have a burn patient that we need to get transferred. What's going on?
That is correct. We have a patient who has second-degree burns and third-degree burns from their waist down and first-degree burns to their face. We need to get this patient transferred to Sherman Oaks Burn Unit, and we have authority or the ability for Sherman Oaks to accept that patient. We now need emergency transportation vehicle to be able to transport that patient, and that's an immediate need we would appreciate right away.
And can we provide helicopter service in any way to get that man out of here for you?
That would be very helpful. We're trying to see right now if we can get that patient ready to go and even put him in a car, so a helicopter would be fantastic. I do know that Sherman Oaks has a heliport, so if you've got somebody who can get here and land, we'd be more than happy to transport.
How do we communicate with it?
How do you communicate?
Yeah, can you give us the frequencies for the helicopter and all that on your roof?
Well, we don't have a roof access to drop down on. They'd have to come to the parking lot. We have to clear a space out here and drop the helicopter down right here in our parking lot.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, thanks.
Back now with CBS News continuing coverage of the Los Angeles earthquake. I'm Connie Chung here with Harry Smith. It is just after 11 a.m. on the West Coast, 6.5 hours after the earthquake struck, and it is still a very dangerous situation. At least 14 deaths are reported and hundreds of injuries. Aftershocks are continuing, and that means still more buildings and roadways could collapse. The earthquake struck before dawn, just after 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. It was centered in Northridge in the San Fernando Valley, about 60 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles. Homes are on fire, gas and water mains broken, people trapped in damaged buildings. Harry Smith, it is an incredible scene that we have witnessed.
Up in the epicenter around Northridge, there are a couple of apartment buildings that have literally collapsed on themselves, about 3 stories high, where 2 stories have collapsed down on the first story of or floor of the building. We have reports from there that at least a half a dozen, or rather 5 people confirmed dead in one of those apartment structures. Well, this is a live picture. You saw the KCBS television reporter down on the ground in Granada Hills. Let's go live to KCBS coverage right now.
Where were you, John? Okay, John was at home when the propane tank blew during the earthquake, and you can see, and John's given us permission. You can see the blistering of the fingers, and these are 2nd to 3rd degree burns. His chest has also sustained some terrible burns as well. He's been wrapped up in saline solution. He's been given an IV. We've got the IV going right here, and he sustained some pretty good burns. But you doing okay, buddy? We're going to get him, the flight over to Sherman Oaks Burn Ward is just a couple more minutes, and once we're there, we'll be able to get him in the hands of some very capable physicians that can tend to this type of specialty. John was over at Granada Hills Hospital. For some reason, they had to call in Chopper 2, couldn't make contact with the fire department, and we're doing this medevac run. The whole flight, what would normally take on the ground with this earthquake, maybe as long as 45 minutes, will be about 3 minutes. And that really saves a lot of time, especially when you have somebody in critical condition with these types of burns, Michael.
Yes, he looks remarkably alert when you consider what he has been through.
It's very common for burn victims. They are alert, they're conscious, and fortunately, how's your breathing? You didn't breathe any of that stuff in? That's really very fortunate. I used to be an emergency medical technician, and what we would see with people that would breathe in these superheated gases, that would always be a big problem with their recovery, but John doesn't seem to have any burns around his mouth or nose.
Let us tell our viewers who have just joined us what happened. A gentleman right here was home when a propane tank blew. He was in pretty bad shape. Time they committed hospital in Fernando Valley in the city of Northridge. They had trouble getting him transported to a burn center that specializes in sorting adequately. They had no way of transporting him.
And no communication.
Had they had one, it would have taken 45 minutes. We were able to call in Chopper 2, our helicopter here, and within just a few minutes he landed, and they are now transporting him to the burn center, an air trip of about 3 minutes. Critical time.
We can hear Bob Turr's voice in the background saying that they are landing right now. The Sherman Oaks Burn Center does have a heliport, and they are ready and waiting for him. Here you can see the spot where the helicopter will land. The man's name is John. He seems to be in fairly good spirits. He did tell us himself that the propane tank did explode.
We are back here. Connie Chung, we're here with Harry Smith. We've been watching Michael Tuck and Linda Alvarez of our KCBS station in Los Angeles. Carrie, their coverage has been excellent all morning.
Excellent. We've seen a lot of pictures from a lot of different neighborhoods out there. And as we say, as we continue our coverage here, the death toll right now is 16, as this earthquake is now exactly 7 hours old.
All right, Bill Lagatude is in Los Angeles. Let's go to him now for an update. Bill?
Yeah, this is in the northern portion of the San Fernando Valley, and this looks like a burst water main of some kind. This is what happens when these huge plates in the earth move. Everything that's buried underneath it, all of the infrastructure moves along with it. Pipes crack and burst, and water goes shooting very high in the air. Also, gas mains break, and there are a lot of fires still going right now. This is a live picture from Granada Hills, which is in the San Fernando Valley, and this is another gas main that burst and caught fire. The odds are that your loved one survived, and I should point out that despite what you're seeing on national television, as was the case in the Los Angeles riots, as was the case in the brush fires and the flooding that we tend to have around here, most of Los Angeles is intact and up and running. We're a little jumpy, but we're still here.
All right, they are not really in a position of having this really under control. Let's listen in.
If we've got a few moments, we'll walk up the roadway here just to show you exactly what happened. And again, to set the stage as we pull our cables up Balboa Boulevard, there was a huge water and gas main rupture here. The two were close together. And as we come around the side of the pickup truck here now, you can see where the fire is burning. Chris, we're going to step over some large asphalt chunks there, right there. And you can see where the gas flame is burning. The gas company people are here, and they told me that they have cut this off, and now it is simply the residual gas in the large gas main that continues to burn. It's been burning for after 6 hours, still burning strong. It took 5 houses with it, but there have been no injuries here on Balboa, north of Rinaldi in Granada Hills, Michael.
Did they say how long they expect the residual gas to burn up, how long it'll take?
They say it could be any minute, then it'll finally burn out because it's been going for a long time after they've shut the valves off. This is very much like shutting off water mains we've seen in the past, where when they shut off gas or water, it's not just turning off a valve as it is in your house, because you're talking about enormous volumes and tremendous pressures, and so they have to back it off gradually, or they will blow other valves and other homes upstream from the problem, so they've had to do it very carefully.
We just received these in. Rescuers are trying to help out. We'll try to focus in a little bit and you'll be able to see.
And there are situations like this throughout Southern California. It's up around Northridge that there's so much damage. An apartment building up there that we're now understanding more than 10 people died in. They're combing through that apartment building as we speak. But this is some footage. This is literally raw footage that's just being fed into us. We're not sure of the location. Someplace in Southern California. These are pictures that were just taken, and we're literally showing them to you as they become available to us. We just slammed them into an editing machine, and you're seeing what we're seeing for the first time.
And as difficult as it is to watch this, we must tell you that the death toll has now risen to 22. This person is lucky. Hopefully this person will be able to get out and get to a hospital. The hospital situation is really difficult. 2 hospitals in the San Fernando Valley where the problem is acute, the most acute, have been closed and cannot take patients. Other hospitals are overloaded.
Okay, take the figure 8. Take the figure 8.
This is, go ahead.
Sorry, Harry. With us is Kimberly Hart. She's a psychotherapist. She's an expert on post-traumatic stress. She's from Los Angeles. And Kimberly Hart, you had just gotten back, actually, from Florida and working with victims of Hurricane Andrew. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And now, can you tell us, it has to be so difficult because people, in fact, were woken up in the dead of night by this earthquake.
The people who I've talked to in Los Angeles tell me that it felt different for them than other quakes. Usually a quake, for those of us who live in that area, feels like almost like being on a rowboat. This one was like being hit up alongside the head. It just snatched you. And that type of trauma to your body causes immediate biochemical response in your brain. And so as all these chemicals are being pumped through your body, what you're doing is you don't react the way you normally would. And,
Go ahead.
And later on what happens is you begin to beat up on yourself because you didn't do things the right way. Now, 7.5, 8 hours later, you have a better chance to take a deep breath and take a look at now what can you do.
Just to clarify where these pictures are coming from, it's in Sherman Oaks, California. That is in the San Fernando Valley. It's on Beverly Ridge Drive. I believe earlier the Channel 2 helicopter had shown us some pictures of this particular collapse, this house collapse on Beverly Ridge Drive. With us now, Kimberly Hart. First, we'll go to some KBCBS coverage.
We have both helicopters in the air now, Air 2, where you just heard Mark Dunn, and also Chopper 2 with Bob Turr, and there's the view of Bob. What's new up there where you are, Bob?
Well, we had some exciting moments. We were called in by the Granada Hills Hospital people. They had a burn victim, with 32% burns, 2nd and 3rd degree burns to his upper torso. And we brought him into the Sherman Oaks Burn Ward. Now, I spoke to Dr. Richard Grossman, the director of Burn Ward at Sherman Oaks, and he said that the quick transport has made a big difference and that he looks like he's going to do just fine, although he will have scarring, but his prognosis is very, very good.
We're going to take a break right now and let our CBS stations along the line to identify themselves.
We'll return to the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 in a moment here on the History Channel. Welcome back to the History Channel. Earthquakes the first few seconds, but usually followed by hundreds, sometimes thousands of aftershocks, of which vary strength. The hour is followed by damage.
First of all, on that regiment to show us from that helicopter with the San Valley, the angel Bible, the remain without a bunch of earthquake that was what came in an incident on top of and the kill. The good news is that it is not Edwards 7.5 and that stay an almost certain chance with the measures. At 5, you had that happen rush hour and a day that was not holiday. You can only imagine the death toll and what that would have been. There have been two other freeways in our area that are very damaged. There's the 118 is the Valley Freeway. This is going to throw LA's freeway system into a state of chaos, I would dare say, tomorrow. You know, we're not famous for having the smoothest running traffic system in the world, that's for sure, and this is only going to make it worse. It just so happens that the 3 points that buckled on our freeway system are 3 of the most traveled routes in and out of Los Angeles. It's not going to be good news for months ahead as for those of us who commute into and out of the city on a daily basis. We talked about aftershocks. You're looking at what one looks like on the seismograph, and they've been rattling through the area with some regularity every few minutes or so. It's hard to predict how big this one is. Only the scientists can accurately read these seismographs, but I can tell you we've had some fairly large ones in the past few minutes.
All right, Bill Lagatuda in Los Angeles. Dr. Chris Scholes has been helping us. He's a seismologist at Columbia University. Now, there have been hundreds of aftershocks. There have been 6 major aftershocks, though, and we have a little map that can tell us exactly where those occurred.
Yes, we've got some of the aftershocks have now come in, and what you're seeing here is shown as a sequence of aftershocks, which are starting to delineate the region that ruptured. Usually the aftershocks will occur all over the fault plane of the fault that ruptured.
And
so
each
you're starting to see them.
Is one, right?
Yes. So you can see actually the one furthest north was right here. It somehow didn't show up. So they're starting to delineate the region that ruptured at depth. And unfortunately, the seismologists there are so busy with this, they haven't had time to analyze and locate very many of these.
And how many miles away from the epicenter, roughly, as we're guessing as to where the epicenter is Northridge? Because Northridge seems to be the area where we have the real serious damage and the highest number of fatalities.
Well, what we're starting to see now, the latest information is that the epicenter was actually to the south, down here, whereas Northridge is over here. Mm-hmm. But, of course, the rupture, that's just the point that the earthquake started. And then the earthquake would have propagated to the north. As I've shown, it propagated over this whole region. And the thing that happens is that the earthquake moves in this direction. And as it propagates toward you, the waves build up. So the highest intensity occurs up here around Northridge.
Slammed right into it. We want to just update folks here for a couple of seconds. 24 now known dead in the earthquake in Los Angeles that occurred at 4:31 Pacific Coast time this morning. 24 now dead. Even as we are reporting to you now, we've been on television all day. There are still some 70 fires burning in Los Angeles.
There's a man trapped in a parking lot. Let's go to KCBS coverage in Northridge.
He was on scene, and they were alerted by a security guard from Sears.
And they told you what? That obviously this had come down, and this man is trapped under it for some reason?
They heard, no. They told us that they heard him hollering from in there. Light Force 89 investigated and, in fact, found him and heard him. They made an initial assessment of his location and the potential to get to him and chose to stay and execute a rescue.
Yeah, now you have safely removed him from this tremendous pile of rubble here. In fact, the man that was pretty much in charge of that is standing right next to us. How do you dig through all of this concrete, pull out something as delicate as a human being without crushing them in the process?
Basically, you make a plan of attack, then you go in and you start cribbing and make the area safe for yourself. The last thing we want to do is become a victim ourselves. Once we've established a good, safe work area, then we take that plan of attack that we put in and go ahead and start either with jackhammers cutting the concrete away or with our airbags lifting the structure.
You know, I can't imagine it being too safe. You and I are standing on an enormous pillar of concrete here, and I can just, as we bounce up and down, I can make this thing move here. This whole rubble is moving in all sorts of directions, yeah.
And we went through a lot of aftershocks during the time that we were rescuing him.
All right, now you got him out. What did he say and what did he look like?
He was a Spanish gentleman. I don't speak Spanish, but we did have some Spanish-speaking firemen down there in the hole that were in communication with him.
I bet we heard Gracias somewhere along the line.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good work. Thank you. He's been taken to UCLA?
Yes, he has.
All right, thank you. Good work by your people out here. So as you can see, in fact, Tricia, we're at the end of our line, so we can't quite show you all of this. But this parking lot here was really about 4 stories high. It is now just a 1-story pile of rubble, and the man spent the entire day under there. He was in some sort of a sweeper, one of those things they use to clean up the area during the hours when the shopping center is closed, and he was trapped under there when this fell down. He is now out. They say he's in reasonably good condition and has been taken by a helicopter to UCLA.
We'd like to thank our colleagues at KCBS TV in Los Angeles who have been covering this story all day long. Their reporting on the region has enabled us to bring you their superb and comprehensive coverage of the disaster. With Harry Smith, I thank you for joining us.
You bet.
On January 17th, 1994, one of the many television stations that scrambled to cover the breaking story was Los Angeles CBS television affiliate, KCBS. Their live reports and taped coverage were sent by satellite to the CBS News Broadcast Center in New York. And from there, the unedited feeds were broadcast on the national network. Without question, an event this big would lead any national evening newscast. When we return, the CBS Evening News, the date, January 17th, 1994. Our look at the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 will continue on the History Channel. The History Channel returns to the Los Angeles earthquake. We continue with excerpts from the CBS Evening News of January 17th, 1994.
This story is still unfolding, but here is what we know at this hour. At least 24 people are dead, hundreds more are injured. Fire has destroyed at least 44 homes in Sylmar, California. More than 500,000 customers lost their electricity, and a state of emergency is in effect in Los Angeles. The quake was centered in the San Fernando Valley, about 20 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles, hitting just after 4:30 this morning. CBS News correspondent Sage reports now on the city's rude awakening.
Los Angeles awake with blood, confusion.
Had no sense of time and things rocking and rolling.
Blurry residents on the dark streets, dig with blankets. Through gas lines, which flooded with buckle. More than 100,000 people lost power. Our motors withstood the temblor, but still some collapsed. In the hills over the San Fernando Valley, this pregnant woman was pulled to safety from the pile of rubble that used to be her home. Her 4-year-old daughter was crushed to death by the debris. Panic spread as quickly as the fires which swept through the areas. In this one mobile home park, 44 homes were destroyed. Trying to quell fears, the Los Angeles mayor took to the airwaves.
I congratulate the citizens of Los Angeles for the cool they've shown so far. Keep it up, and God bless all of you.
The governor arrived by midday.
You begin to wonder how much Angelenos are really expected to take.
Aftershock started up just as the dust settled and will continue for weeks and months to come, which may be how long it will take some people to clean up.
My husband and I celebrated our 25th anniversary a year ago, and my classes are done. This is all I have left. 25 years. There you go.
Now, some National Guard troops have been called into the San Fernando Valley, along with additional police officers. Most of the people who have lost power today are going to remain in the dark tonight, and some without water. We understand that power will not be restored. We're going through a little bit of an aftershock, feeling it a little bit on the roof of the building. This is to be expected. We are told we're going to have many of these aftershocks for the next couple of weeks or into a few months. It has just calmed down, and we're all right up here. A small aftershock. Dan, back to you.
Sandra, have you had these aftershocks during the afternoon? And if so, have they been at about that level or less or greater than what you just went through?
Well, it's hard for me to estimate what we just went through, but a few hours ago we did have a 5.0 on the Richter scale aftershock, and all morning long we have had aftershocks. As I was sitting in my office, as I was out doing interviews, we felt them all day, and that's why many people are staying out of their houses, because they're afraid of these aftershocks.
Sandra Hughes, live in Los Angeles. Thanks. Take care of yourself. Search and rescue teams have high-tech listening devices tonight at the scene of the quake's single deadliest disaster site. At least 14 people are confirmed dead in the rubble of an apartment building, which is right at the earthquake epicenter in heavily populated Northridge. Correspondent Jerry Bowen reports that scene.
The rescue effort at the collapsed three-story Meadows apartment complex in Northridge was frantic. Firefighters cutting through the instant rubble to free stunned and dazed survivors.
See that right there? That's the first floor, that's the second floor, and there's no more first floor. Paramedics right here.
Young Suk Lee was rescued by her son from their apartment, but her husband was among those trapped and killed when the earth shifted violently and the stucco and wood frame building gave way.
I can't believe the windows didn't explode. All of our dressers turned over. There's not a single piece of furniture in our house.
The refrigerator moved 4 feet.
Everything's ripped out of the wall.
Firefighters were hampered by the pre-dawn darkness in locating and rescuing survivors. Some, trapped in the sandwiched first-floor apartments, found a way to dig themselves out.
My wife and I went to bed and we were in the corner of the room and everything fell down except the one little corner where we were hiding, and we were trapped, and the 3 stories fell on top of us, and for some reason God saved us. We punched our way out of the wall and we got out.
As the cold night gave way to the grim realities revealed by daylight, firefighters neared a weary Jerry Prezzo in his first-floor apartment and finally, gingerly, pulled him free.
Now I can see the Super Bowl.
Now I can see the Super Bowl, said the elated Jerry Prezzo.
This all lobby?
All lobby.
Okay, good.
Then there's a bedroom, and then we've got 2 bodies.
Okay.
Firefighters are continuing to look for survivors, and when they find a body, the notation DB, dead body, is made on the wall. The victim to be removed later. Tonight, 75-year-old Sid Dalvin, pulled from a first-floor apartment, speaks for many, remembering the early morning horror.
Lucky you didn't crush me. You know that? That's a lucky thing.
Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Northridge, California.
As you watch these disaster scenes, we should remind you that they are only part of the picture. Much of the vast Los Angeles area is up and running. Much of the infrastructure is still intact. But among the biggest dangers still looming, continuing aftershocks, as you saw, throughout the region. They could further damage buildings and freeways, the bones and arteries of Southern California. Correspondent Bill Whitaker is live on the scene in the San Fernando Valley. Bill?
Connie, even as Los Angeles is struggling to get over its shock, it's also struggling to get back up on its feet. In addition to the lives lost and shattered today, lots of Los Angeles, lots of its infrastructure now lies in ruins, as you can see behind me, bringing brash, busy Los Angeles to a crawl. In this city that lives by the car, today LA's lifeline was severed. Across the city, freeways collapsed and buckled. Portions of 5 major arteries are down. When the earth shook with such fury this morning,
We're having an aftershock right now, people.
steel and concrete were no match. After decades of preparing for quakes like this, many are asking what, if anything, Los Angeles could have done better.
The serious questions that we have to ask now is whether or not we have learned those lessons in the past, or why we were not able to take steps that would have given us greater safety.
Millions of people will have to find alternate routes. A 64-car freight train derailed and leaked sulfuric acid. 10,000 people and tons of freight used to ride these rails into the city every day. Now they're twisted and useless. No one knows how long before trains will be up and running again. Virtually the entire city has been without electricity all day. The 2 major power stations were seriously damaged. Officials say they have no idea when they can restore power to nearly 2 million customers.
To my knowledge, this city has never lost all its power. Obviously, it has to be a surprise to us when we did this morning.
While most of the city's 44,000 miles of gas pipeline withstood the force of the quake, those that did blow cut service to thousands and ignited fires all across the San Fernando Valley. It will be at least a week before gas lines are repaired. But perhaps the most critical problem facing the city now is the water supply. With one of the 2 major aqueducts damaged and treatment plants not running, everyone is being warned to boil the water. Lines are forming all over the city to buy precious water and to make phone calls. Now we just had another sharp aftershock. Crews, construction crews, and utility crews are working feverishly to try to get the city back up on its feet, but it's bound to be some time before Los Angeles gets back to anything approaching normal. Connie?
All right, thank you. Bill Whitaker live in the San Fernando Valley. Dan?
Natural forces have been shaking Southern California for millions of years, long before any humans showed up, and Californians have been told to expect that eventually those natural forces will unleash the quake they call the big one. As correspondent Richard Threlkell reports, just in case anyone forgets, history is a constant reminder.
San Francisco in April of 1906, a monster earthquake, an estimated 8.3 on the Richter scale, kills at least 700 people. The city's downtown burns to the ground. Emergency officials estimate a quake like that in today's Los Angeles would kill as many as 14,000 people and cause hundreds of billions of dollars damage. In fact, they're preparing for the big one, as they call it, 8.0 or more, because scientists say it will surely come someday. Before today, the quake that most Southern Californians remember was also in the San Fernando Valley almost 23 years ago. It was bad enough, 6.5 on the Richter scale, and 65 people died in it. That was a learning experience for Californians, and so was this, the quake in Long Beach, just southeast of Los Angeles, in March of 1933. 6.3 on the Richter scale. It killed 115 people. Ever since, California's cities have been trying to make themselves earthquake safe. There was another reminder of how much is left to do in October of 1989. 63 people were killed when San Francisco and the Bay Area were hit by a 7.1 earthquake. Bridges and freeways collapsed and whole neighborhoods burned. It was evidence, if that was needed, that despite all the effort to make California earthquake safe, there's no way to make it earthquake proof. One of the few things that Los Angeles can be grateful for is that today's quake, as awful as it was not the big one. Scientists say they have no way of knowing whether today's earthquake brought the big one any closer or postponed the inevitable day that it will come.
And here to add some context and perspective on this quake, Columbia University seismologist Chris Schultz. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Schultz. Today it was 6.5 with aftershock of 6.6. Not too long ago, what was it? There was the earthquake in California in this same range, 7.5 and a 6.6 aftershock. What are we dealing with here? Is this build up to the big one?
Well, there's a lot of concern among seismologists that the increase of activity generally in Southern California we've seen over the last 10 years indicates that the whole tectonic situation is getting up to an advanced stage of its cycle. And what we're concerned with here is what people would call the big one. It would be a magnitude 8 earthquake which would occur on the San Andreas Fault north of Los Angeles. Now, that, of course, would be further from Los Angeles than this earthquake, but would be several hundred times more energetic. And both the Landers earthquake that occurred in 1992 and this earthquake are on secondary structures that could be interpreted as meaning that the stress generally is building up on the San Andreas Fault. These earthquakes are not large enough to relieve that stress. Only this big earthquake on the San Andreas Fault can do that. So there is considerable concern among the professional community that the activity is symptomatic of this advanced stage. Now, the last time that size earthquake, the big earthquake, occurred was in 1857. So it's almost 140 years ago. And it was very quiet for the first 120 years after that earthquake, and now we're seeing this buildup, so people are concerned about it.
Well, I want to make clear that today was 6.5. 2 years ago was 7.5 with a 6.6 aftershock. Very quickly, this occurred apparently on really very far away. These
related that they're associated with the stress field. Stress that are in the San Andreas Fault produced this earthquake. It's a different fault, but it's all feeding the same that both kinds of things.
Thank you very much.
We'll learn this earthquake on the History Channel. As it happened, our look at the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 continues on the History Channel. It's the morning after the initial trembler, And correspondent Paula Zahn is at the scene of the earthquake's worst disaster, a collapsed apartment building in Northridge.
Good morning from Northridge, California. It is Tuesday, January the 18th. I'm Paula Zahn. This apartment building was the deadliest place in all of yesterday's earthquake. 15 people died when it collapsed. Over in Granada Hills, you're looking at one of the countless fires that broke out when gas lines broke and exploded. Los Angeles awakens to a shattered city, 680,000 people without electricity, a death toll of at least 30. Joining us right now is Hattie Kaufman, who's going to take a closer look at the real people behind those statistics.
The people in Northridge we spoke to yesterday ran the gamut of emotion, from shock to gratitude they were alive to fear. After the tears, you think immediately of the essentials, like food.
If you could give me some kind of some meat that I could cook or some vegetables that we could eat.
The people of Northridge were there for each other. At one store, the owner wouldn't take any money.
Yeah, we have baby food here. We got some more stuff too.
Inside, employees emptied the cooler, donating the food to shelters. Ed Kosakowski didn't have to come to work today, but...
I don't know, I kind of felt obligated to when something like this happens.
Ed, a college senior, barely escaped his apartment.
Yeah, when I first felt it, I thought, this is it. This is the big one, you know?
And this is your unit?
Right, this is my unit. It's 3 stories tall, and it doesn't look very sturdy sitting on this, you know? This goes all the way across to the garage and almost a little bit around the corner, so...
That's why you don't want to sleep here tonight?
Oh, I'm definitely not staying here. I don't trust it one bit.
When the quake hit, a TV fell on Ed's chest. A clock hit him in the head, knocking him down 2 flights of stairs and into a glass mirror.
That piece of glass in me.
What else?
And that's the same for my arm.
10 hours after the quake, he was finally able to make a call to his mom in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I'm okay, Mom. Everything's trashed. Everything that I own is just smashed to pieces.
It is sunset, and now hundreds of thousands of people here have to decide whether to sleep inside their homes tonight or whether it might be safer to camp outside. The Pajarigan family now calls the front lawn home.
We're sleeping outside for a week.
Try to be a little more one with it and get through it.
Be one with the earth by sleeping right on. Some faced the coming dark, still standing in line for water, batteries, food, still uncertain where they'd spend the night.
The sun is setting. Are you guys going to sleep indoors? Are you going to be camping out?
We're going to sleep out in our car, me and my husband.
As darkness fell, many took to their cars to get away from Northridge. Some couldn't.
I just wish my mom were here.
These children sat frightened on their sidewalk. When the quake hit, their mother was out of town.
The house is
about to cave in.
You're not going to
sleep in there. It's like caving in.
Are you scared about sleeping out here, too?
That and everything. I'm just scared.
In the wake of the quake, the ground still rumbles, the death toll rises, and man finishes the job the earth began. Good evening. Southern California today began digging out and coming back from the great earthquake of 1994. Everywhere you look, especially from this vantage point up here, there's some extraordinary scenes. This is I-5, one of the main freeways in all of California. Can you imagine what it would have been like to be in that truck or in that Winnebago-style vehicle when the freeway literally dropped away on both sides of it? Aftershocks collapsed the Route 14 interchange right onto Interstate 5. Interstate 5 was the quickest route between northern and southern California. Also from up here, you get a good view of what happened to a train when the earthquake came rumbling through. Place after place, mile after mile, these are the kinds of sights you see. Now, all around these places of tremendous damage, there are homes, buildings, installations, freeways that weren't damaged. That's the way it goes in an earthquake. For an overview and summary of what's been happening here in the wake of the quake, CBS News correspondent Sandra Hughes has a report.
Overnight, the sky was lit by a fireball, touched off by one of the hundreds of aftershocks. National Guard troops watched over a quiet curfew. There have been 73 arrests since the quake, much fewer than expected. But dawn didn't banish all the fear.
It's too scary at our house. Every time there's
anything moves, like a car drives by, even everybody runs to the doorways and everything.
Many awoke in unfamiliar places. Thousands in shelters, others camped out, afraid of being trapped inside.
They were talking about looters on the street, so we were ready for them.
Few were ready for the commute. It took hours longer for some, with traffic diverted around damaged freeways. But since many stayed home today, it will only get worse. At the Emergency Operations Center downtown, officials are coping with a crisis. 34 people have died, 500,000 people are without power, and up to 100,000 without water. Local officials are pleading with Washington.
Immediately, the city of Los Angeles needs more people working on this emergency.
In the San Fernando Valley, almost everywhere there are lines for water, gasoline, and groceries.
A lot of the freeways are down, so we don't know which directions the food's coming from, especially out here to the valley.
And there is cleanup.
Because I don't know if the building is safe.
His mother-in-law's a good set of dishes.
They're cleaning up in Santa Monica, too, 20 miles from the epicenter, and next door in the Pacific Palisades, where Ron and Regina Orr searched through the mud.
Just photo albums. That's all we got. That's all we care about. Our kids are safe.
Officials have extended the dusk to dawn curfew declared yesterday, but police say they are not going after everyone who is outside after dark. They are just trying to discourage people who might try and take advantage of this crisis situation.
We'll return to the Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 in a moment here on the History Channel. The History Channel returns to As It Happened, the 1994 Los Angeles earthquake.
Monday, the earth here rolled and Southern California rolled to a halt. We've spent the last 48 hours at the heart of this crisis. This scene back here is part of the quake's legacy. It's where Highway 14 dropped onto Interstate 5. It's now a heavily damaged freeway that's going to disrupt traffic for months. It is one aftershock that may even be felt well into next year. Others may be less visible, but no less devastating. Join us now as we meet the men and women who are in the fight of their lives, fighting to rebuild, fighting to recover. As you will see and hear, the true scope of this earthquake cannot be measured on the Richter scale. We begin at the quake's very core, the apartment where 16 people went to bed Sunday night and never lived to see the dawn.
There is no single place in Los Angeles where more lives were changed or more lives were lost than here. Dazed survivors, many of them the walking wounded, stumble out of the Northridge Meadows apartment building.
I was on the second floor.
Among them, Sheila Chulik.
The guy next to me is still missing. He's in number 259.
Others are not so lucky. Nobody knows how many are buried in the rubble.
Somebody in there?
It's the beginning of a long day. It will be hours before their families learn who lived and who died.
Oh boy, what can I tell you? It happened, it was very bad. My whole window caved. Oh, Mama, oh, Mama. And my son and my children, and my son and my children.
Looking all over for you.
Most of the people who live here are either elderly or college students, like Sheila Chulik.
Your clothes are in there?
Everything.
Your books?
This is it. Everything. This is all I own. Purse, thongs, and pajamas.
I'm not trying to embarrass you, but it doesn't look like you even have a belt.
No, I do not. I have a bungee cord holding up my pants because there are some man's pants that are too big for me. I mean, that's how nice people were. They were pulling over on the side of the road getting blankets and offering coffee, and I mean, they were just really good.
What is that, garage? No, it's apartment.
Others are helping in the dangerous ruins of Northridge Meadows.
Okay, come on, this way. Tony, around here. Come on.
Greg Gonzalez and Errol Cobb are volunteers with the California Swiss Search Dog Association.
Good boy, find him.
The command sums up the searchers' goal and the dog's role.
Come on, find him.
Find anyone trapped in the building. Find them, dead or alive.
Just trying to get her into openings in the building and see if there's any human scent in there that would draw her in.
They search room by room,
Heck, here. When they find somebody inside, the dog will begin scratching and barking.
As the day goes on, the only people found are dead, many killed in their own beds.
Come on, go to the left.
But Cobb, Gonzalez, and the dogs keep looking for survivors.
Where is he?
This is what they're up against. Since this building collapsed on itself, there are all sorts of tiny crawl spaces, like this one in here, that are just too narrow to be searched by a human being. A man can't get down in there, but a dog can. How do you feel about the way it went today? I mean, they kept finding body after body after body. Is that a failure?
Even finding people that have died in a disaster, it's part of the job. You want to find the survivors, but finding the people that have died it's something you do for the families.
Absolutely.
You know, they need to know. It's better to know than not know.
Do you think that there's anybody alive in here now?
There's no way to know. There's no way of knowing. There's just no way of knowing.
Believe in miracles?
Absolutely.
I do. There's a lot of voids in these buildings.
Yeah, and that's all it takes is a little crack.
Yeah.
A little bit of air.
A
Yeah.
little bit of air, a little bit of space for a person to survive. So there's always hope.
I just don't see how anybody else could be still alive in there, but they've been known to find them even up to 5 days after.
Sheila Chulik has spent the night at the home of friends. The night was frightening. She's a little shaky.
There were 2 or 3 pretty big aftershocks last night. Did you feel them?
Every single one of them. See, it feels like it's shaking right now, but I don't know if you can feel it.
It's not shaking.
I know, but it just feels like it.
And it's taking its toll.
When I contacted some friends and family last night, every time I talked to them, I'd start crying again.
What makes you cry now?
Knowing my neighbors are dead. Never thought all my belongings would wind up in a little bag. I know I'll never come back to that building to live. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
A little more than 24 hours after the quake, Sheila Chulik is going back.
It looks worse than it did yesterday.
To look for her belongings and to look for her friends.
Oh, man, Alan, baby. They're okay. They're in Thousand Oaks, okay? Thanks. You're welcome. That was my neighbor's friends. My neighbors got out with me, and that was he was been looking for them ever since yesterday. So we just told them that they're okay.
So you got to give somebody some good news.
Yes, I felt good for a change.
As things stand now, how dangerous is that building?
In varying degrees. This building right here is extremely dangerous.
The north.
You go in this building, and a sneeze can bring this building down.
I have a car under there that might be okay. A $15,000 car.
Sheila and her neighbors are not yet being allowed in their apartments. They may never be allowed back in.
So we just stand here and wait?
Yep, you just wait. They're running your life right now.
And if they are, it will be only once to take what they can in just a few minutes.
I can't grab any furniture or anything like that.
You sort of have to reduce your life to a 10-minute grab.
To a gunny sack. Yeah, exactly.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I'm going to freak out when I go in there. I'm going to be like, what do I do? What do I do? I've never had to do this before.
When this is over, months from now, maybe a year from now, what do you think you're going to remember the most? What's the most powerful image in your mind?
The furniture smashing my face, and hearing those voices of the men that were stuck between the floors.
What were they?
Yelling for help, telling us not to forget them. And we kept saying we weren't going to forget them, and we were waiting to get the fire people there. I think that's going to be etched forever, just hearing those voices. These men were just, you couldn't see them, but you could hear them, and parts of them were sticking up between the floors and between the concrete. You can't hear that kind of stuff and not be changed by it, you know? The voices and how they sounded, it was just a terrible experience.
The Northridge earthquake, as it came to be called, cost Los Angeles more than any other disaster in its history. $20 billion worth of damage was left in its wake. Although the Richter scale marked it at a moderate 6.6, there was no way to measure the emotional toll on the city. For a while, people could trust neither the stability of the ground that they walked on, nor the security of the beds in which they slept. Within a few shattering moments, the quake wiped out homes, separated families, destroyed businesses. It soaked up the savings of those without insurance. In all, there were 61 dead and 9,000 injured. 30,000 homes, apartments, and buildings were ruined. 25,000 people were homeless. 1 year after the family returned to Los Angeles to see if time had helped to heal the ailing city.
In the past year, the Earth has revolved once around the sun, made 365 rotations on its axis. And in Southern California, it has shaken more than 11,000 times. Aftershocks of the Northridge earthquake, reminders of a disaster survivors will never forget. Correspondent Jerry Bowen reports tonight's Eye on America.
Sheila Chulik clutched her candle tightly this morning and stood with other survivors at the vacant lot that 1 year ago had been their home, the Northridge Meadows Apartments. 16 of the disaster's 61 victims died here. Sheila Chulik escaped with her life and an old pink bathrobe.
My security blanket.
But 1 year later, she finds she is still trapped by haunting memories.
The people that died, I mourn for them, and as bad as I feel for them, their problems are all over. Do you know, their problems are gone. They'll never have to feel anything again.
Oregon truck driver Nick Nichols also came to the edge of death that morning and put on the brakes.
All I saw was the road fall away in front of me, and I figured, you better get this sucker stopped or you're going to die.
His rig, perched atop a freeway to nowhere, became a symbol of nature's power and of luck.
We got 3 people in there. We can't get to them, though.
And what happened to the Tyre Vigil family was symbolic, too. Of desperate hopes and worst fears realized.
I thought, well, this is it. You know, this is a big one. Every house on the street is gone, and they're never going to get to us, and it's just a matter of time.
Is the wife pregnant? Yeah, okay. She is.
I felt the first jolt. I was 7 months pregnant, didn't move too quickly. I said, get Amy. And that was it. There was no getting anybody.
Trapped in the rubble of their collapsed hillside home, they could only wait for help and wonder about 4-year-old Amy.
I kept thinking about Amy and trying not to think about her because I hadn't heard her the whole time.
Don't fall again, please.
Vigil emerged with broken teeth, ribs, and a crushed leg. His wife, Nancy, with a crushed arm and pelvis. But the real pain came later, with word that Amy had not survived.
Losing a child, you lose a big part of yourself. And we appreciate life a lot more, and every day there's also always going to be a dark spot where we miss Amy. I've learned it's something that I'll never get over, but we're emerging as new people. Peekaboo!
3 new people. 2 months after the earthquake, David was born, a laughing, hazel-eyed survivor of this nation's worst natural disaster.
Miracle. He's a miracle baby.
He's the happiest kid on earth, and he brings us so much joy.
So they remember that awful day of 1 year ago, Sheila Chulik at a solemn vigil.
My life will never be the same. And I feel like it's a permanent scar.
And trucker Nick Nichols, he still makes his weekly runs along the same troubled freeway.
It made me enjoy life a heck of a lot more than what I did before, and I live everything now day by day.
And the youngest victim was remembered too, a memorial unveiled at her gravesite. Amy Tyre Vigil, it reads, she is one with nature, in a city where the fragile nature of life is clearly understood.
Prayed for the morning, prayed for them spring.
In Los Angeles, this is Jerry Bowen for Eye on America.
Years after the Northridge earthquake, much of the external damage has been repaired. The store shelves are once again neat, and that crack in the living room has been repaired. Those left without homes have been resettled, and perhaps fewer children are awakened by nightmares. The city has returned to its old rhythms, having thankfully accepted $13 billion from the federal government and watched in amazement as construction crews repaired the 6 damaged freeways in record time. Families, businesses, and officials have all vowed to be better prepared next time. There is more focus on earthquake-safe building codes, but under the surface, things are different. The loss of life, the destruction of a home, the memory of that primeval fear, there is no panacea for these. One overwhelming and simple fact remains. The Los Angeles earthquake of 1994 was not the big one. That, many experts agree, is nigh. For the History Channel, I'm Karen Stone. Thanks for watching.
Stay tuned for the headlines of 1987, next on Year by Year. And coming up tomorrow night, History Alive kicks off the Century of Invention Week with the fascinating story of the computer at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific.